Hello, what's up, replay viewers? How's it going, guys? The Ben Finley is on Periscope. Hey, what's up, Ben? Good to see you guys. Hello, hi guys, come on in. Welcome, thanks for jumping in today. In the flesh. Hey guys, thanks for coming in. Thanks for these lovely hearts. Thanks for jumping in here, guys. Wow, that's quick. So, recently, if you're a first-time viewer, hello, first of all. My name is Huei. I'm a musician here in Los Angeles, California. This is my friend Devon. I'm gonna say, hey, what's up, Devon?
How's it going?
And later tonight, we're gonna be doing a lesson at 7 p.m. Central. But because of some of the messages that we got on Instagram, what's up, Tony? What's up, No? What's up, Zachary? Thanks for sharing, Adam. Thank you for sharing, Zachary. Because of a lot of the questions that we were getting through Instagram and Snapchat and things like that, we thought, you know, a lot of times we get so caught up in giving content and drumming material, we forget to give you guys a chance to get to know us as people. So we thought we would do just a short pre-lesson hang and give you guys a chance to, like, we were going to chat for a little bit. If you have questions for us, we'd be happy to answer some questions. And what you see happening right now, guys, is a bunch of people sharing, which is much appreciated. You can share on Twitter, you can share with your followers, you can share it on Facebook. Lately, Periscope has been having a problem with broadcasting this out to Twitter. Hello, Beetle Percussion. How's it going, guys? Alan, thank you for coming in. So if you wouldn't mind sharing it so we can invite some more people in here, it's always more fun when we've got more people in the room. But of course, the 18 of you who are already in here, we're very excited to have you guys here with us. So thanks. So what's going on right now?
Just chilling.
That's
all I do.
Hola, mi amigo. ¿Cómo estás? Some knowledge about to drop.
That's right.
That's right. JD, we were actually just talking about you before the scope started, so all good things. So Devon came over this afternoon. I had a rehearsal this morning for a piece that I'm performing on a recital tomorrow. Composition buddy of mine has a recital tomorrow, so we rehearsed this morning, and then I actually had to stay after and practice for a little bit. Devon rolled in around 2 o'clock. We hung out. Devon got a chance to meet the fam and play with the baby. And one credit to Devon is lately she's started developing a little bit of stranger danger. And when Devon walked in...
Not with me.
No. He's not confident about it at all, right? Thanks. So no stranger danger for Devon, so he's welcome to come back over again. Very good. Thanks, Jacob. Jacob is do you know Joe Hobbs?
Yep.
Jacob is a student of Joe Hobbs. And Jacob, where are you again? Way too much Asian cuteness. Are you talking about me or the baby, Ben? I'm kidding. Ben's a good friend of mine from, we went to school together in Texas.
Gotcha.
In Texas, D-Town, Dallas. And duh. Yeah, okay, I thought it was about me, thanks. And now he's a professor of percussion in Oklahoma.
Nice.
Ada, Oklahoma. And so Devon came over, and then we talked some lesson stuff for tonight's lesson. So if you, can you guys just give me a hint? Are you first-time viewers or returning? If you could just type in first or return, so we can get an idea of who's in here and knows what's going on, or this is the first time. Returning, pennies, return. Man, look at all this return love. Returning, first, excellent, first, rookie, new guy.
Rookie status.
Okay, so for the new viewers, let's give it right now. So we've got some hearts floating up through the screen over here. You can tap on the screen. We use these as applause, or you're into what's happening on the screen right now, or you know what's going on, you're in the know. And also it helps us because sometimes the reception gets a little kooky on here. So if we see the hearts floating, then we know that we're still connected. And you can also add comments in here. One thing that we really like to do also is just, you know, get to know each other in the room. We have a lot of returning members, as you can see. Yep, the stream of hearts. And lately it's gotten to the point where, I mean, these hearts will just be flowing the whole time. Kason was mentioning a few days ago how he's like, wait, do you remember when you first started there were only like 3 people in the room? I was like, yeah, I totally remember. And this pre-lesson hang, we already have 15, and sometimes we'll get as many as 80 for the 7 o'clock lesson that happens.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for coming in. Mondo, how's it going, bud? So what are your plans for the next few weeks, Devon? When we got here, Devon was telling us about his travel plans for the next few weeks. So
yeah, so I've been out here on an internship with Johnson & Johnson for like the past 3 months, and so homesickness is, you know, coming in a little bit. So I'm going to go back home to Michigan in about 2 weeks here, and then next week I'm going to go down to San Diego, visit some family around there. So my April's looking pretty busy right now, a lot of travel, so I'm looking forward to that though. So
yeah.
Yep.
Hey guys, how many of you have seen the video, the previous video? This is the second time Devon's been on the Periscope, but we did a hang in Manhattan Beach a couple weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yep, Jacob saw it. Can you guys just type, like, saw it, or this is the first time? Because if this is the first time you're meeting Devon, maybe we can go in and talk a little bit about Devon's background and why he's on today to do the guest lesson, which is going to be awesome. I'm super excited about the lesson. I can't wait to tell you guys about it. Law, can you take my picture? You know, when they asked you to take their picture? First time with Devon. Excellent. Awesome. Adam, you're going to be in store. Hey, for treat, Adam, I've noticed that recently you've been figuring out how to make the replay heart stick. If you can explain that to me at some point, that'd be really helpful. No, first, Zachary first. Okay, so why don't we take a moment, Devon, you can just tell everyone a little bit about your marching experience and give them a little background.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in San Jose, California, and I had a brother that marched Santa Clara Vanguard, and that's kind of how I got, I guess, motivated and into the world of drum corps. And then I moved to Michigan, and my first drum corps experience was with the Glassmen in 2012. And then for my next 2 years, I was with Phantom Regiment for 2013 and 2014. And I was lucky enough to be the section leader of the drum line for those 2 years. And then I aged out my past year here with the Bluecoats Drum and Bugle Corps. So that was my last year. And then in terms of winter, I did Rhythm X. I just did 1 season. That's where I'm at. So, and I'm currently a senior at Michigan State University studying supply chain management. So kind of slowly morphing out of the band world into the business world, but still trying to keep tabs as much as I can on the band world. So
yeah, and you played at MSU too, right? And for, guys, those
Right.
of you who know about MSU, you know that they have a very strong tradition for having powerhouse drum lines out there. Can you tell everyone just a little bit about MSU?
Yeah, so Michigan State, we're really big into athletics. You probably see, the football team, basketball team performing pretty well, and so as a result of that, the band program is huge because we get the pleasure of following those teams around. And so for the past 1 or 2 decades, we've had an awesome instructor named John Weber, who's just revolutionized the program there and just has done an incredible job in terms of writing and teaching. And so he's kind of built our lineup.
How many years has he been there? Like, if you had a ballpark it.
It's 15 to 20. It's a lot of years. So he's awesome. So he's really changed the game for us, and so it's just an awesome time getting so much exposure in the MSU athletic world. So that's Michigan State. So it's really fun to be a part of that group. So,
guys, can you give us some indication of? Let's start with how long you've been playing. For example, if you're a percussionist in the room, give us like a less than 1, 5, 8, 20. Give us an indication about how many years you've been playing. Awesome. 2, 3, 4, and then can you type in just middle school, high school, college, or let's say post college. 6 years, but playing 2. 20. Wow.
20 plus.
Yeah. That was No. Who's No? Do I know No? Looking, come here. Nolan. Hi, Nolan. Are you first time viewer, Nolan? Right. Ben Billy, 20th grade. Ben got his doctorate at the University of Texas. When I was at UT Austin doing my undergrad, he was finishing his doctorate, so that's why he's in the 20th plus grade.
Nice.
Yeah. 2 years high school. Excellent. So we've got, as you can see, guys, we have a whole range of viewers in the room, and I'm sure for some of you who've been playing for 2 years, maybe you're looking at auditioning at college lines. Was MSU's college line a consideration when you were looking at schools?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I knew that whatever school I wanted to go to, I wanted to check into, just kind of what the marching band situation is, because I knew that I was going in as a business major and not a music major, so I still wanted to have that kind of side, that marching band side. If I wasn't going to be a music major, I still wanted to be involved. So that was definitely a big piece of the criteria. And so just seeing my brother be in the Spartan Marching Band when he went to Michigan State, just watching that drum line, it was really awesome. And then obviously I was attracted by the business school itself, and so to me it just made total sense to go to Michigan State with a good business program and an incredible drumline. So I'm just really lucky to have both sides of that playing into me. So
yeah,
yep.
And guys, let us know how many of you, if maybe you're preparing to go to college or you see yourself going to college in the future. I mean, one of the dilemmas that you always see people have to face is you say, I'm going to college for the first time. I'm going to be super busy. Don't know if I'm going to have time to keep playing in the marching band or the concert band or those extracurricular activities. I mean, how important was that to keep that going while you were actually studying business as your main thing?
Yeah, so it's definitely a big thing that you have to think about, whether or not you're going to be able to balance all those things. For me, what it meant doing was lightening my fall schedule. And then ramping up my spring schedule like crazy, because that would allow me, of course, we had band every day, starting at around 3 or 4, depending on if you were in the drumline or not. And then your whole day, the rest of your day is pretty much gone. So I had to make sure that I would schedule my classes in the first half of the day, morning and early afternoon. And you can't do that when you have, 15, 18 credits. So I would, bring back the fall schedule and then ramp up the spring schedule. But even with that, you still have to stay super organized, plan out your weeks, but it's definitely doable. And it's worth it. So
for sure.
Yeah.
When I started my undergrad, I actually didn't start as a music major. I don't know if I told you this, but
no.
I didn't start as a music major in undergrad. I actually started as an electrical engineering major. And that was kind of what I'd been groomed for all through high school and getting into college was, I come from a very strong math and science background.
Yeah.
And so when I applied for schools, I said, okay, I'll do electrical engineering. It just made sense. And then I still auditioned for marching band because drumline was a big thing. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was getting ready to make my audition tape, my high school teacher then, who's now the director of bands at Texas State University, she was our high school director. She was helping me make my audition videotape. I was a total bozo. I didn't know what was going on. She's like, okay, well, you should probably play some exercise that'll demonstrate your marching snare chops if you want to make the drumline. I said, okay. And then just on a whim, she said, you should play some concert percussion stuff as well. And I said, okay, what should I play? She's like, do you have any, excerpts that you could play? And for whatever reason, my lesson teacher had done a great job, and so I had Porgy and Bess under my hands. I had Appalachian Spring, some xylophone excerpts, some timpani, and I just played them. And this came into effect later when I did undergrad first year as an electrical engineer, and then around the middle, the middle of the spring semester of my first year, I started getting this feeling. I was like, man, this is not it. This is not what I want to do.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had been playing in the marching band, and as a result, in the spring semester, played in the jazz band, played in the concert band, and this is another story for another day. But when I was an engineer at the time, I remember thinking how playing music, that was my for fun activity that balanced all the stress and work that happened when you were in the lab or taking classes, and it's just a good stress release.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. There was a question earlier about being 27 years old, and is that still too late to be in the drumline? I remember some grad students being in the marching band when I was an undergrad. Did you guys have any grad students, or older students, or mostly undergrad?
It's mostly undergrad, and then we had grad assistants that acted kind of as tech positions and stuff like that. But I mean, if you're older, I mean, maybe while the college thing might not work for you, I mean, you have DCA. That you could still participate in, and there's still drumline communities and stuff like that. There's NBA, NFL drumlines as well, and I'm pretty sure they don't have any sort of max age or whatever. Maybe they do, but so DCA is a great option if you're still you miss that environment and you want to be in there. So that's the ones I know of. So
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guys, can you give us some feedback? Is the reception okay on this so far? Or, because I see that people are coming in another room. Not sure if it's because of the reception. Okay, so we got the reception's still good. Great. Fantastic, Jacob. Do you guys have any questions for us? Because I've got some, there is a question that I received from my Ask Huei forum, for those of you who know about it. If you go to my website, which is huei-yuan.com, and you type in /Ask Huei, A-S-K, Huei is spelled H-U-E-I, you can submit some questions in there. And last week I did my second episode, which I thought went great. I mean, the quality of the questions is what I've been most impressed about, actually. And through sharing some experiences that I've had, I can hopefully answer some of these questions for you. But there was a question that I thought was great that I wanted to get Devon's take on today. So if you guys have some questions, feel free to hit us with some questions. Jacob, that is not how you spell it. We're going to have to work. I'm going to call Joe Hobbs later today and be like...
S-Q-A-R.
Yeah, I'm going to call Joe and say that in your lessons from now, we're going to break out the Hooked on Phonics and get you on a program. Gotta go. Just wondering if the lesson will be on YouTube. Yes, I imagine the lesson will be reposted on YouTube. So you can catch the replay for 24 hours or look for it on YouTube. But thanks for stopping in. I read music, man, not English. I don't know if that's a good excuse. I don't know if that's a valid excuse. Okay, so ask Devon some questions. I'm going to pull out this question that I want to ask Devon here in a second.
What questions do you guys have? Go ahead and put them up in the comments.
How's the weather where you guys are at? Here, it's like 70s, mid to upper 70s. How much swag does it take to be? I mean, just look at the
Zero, none.
What was it like under the helmet?
It's actually terrible because you can't hear anything, and then like your listening environment is all messed up. It's terrible.
What is the Coats helmet similar or the same as Regiment's?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. At Phantom, we tried to fix it by putting like foam. I remember at one point foam inserts to try to get the echo. The echo was so bad, and I think Coats we already had the foam, and it actually helped take some of that weird echo away. But no, it's terrible. Like we would always dread it when we had rehearsals with the helmets on because the listening environment is terrible. But you got to do it, because you got to get used to that for the show and stuff. How old do you have to be in DCI? I mean, you could be in an open class corps at I've seen 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, but I mean the average age is typically anywhere from 18 to 21. That's typical upper high school, lower level college students. So. But my advice to you is start early. Go to camps at an early age. I went to my first camp at 15 with Blue Stars, I think it was. So that's
Were you good?
No, I was bad. So.
Do you ever watch old videos of yourself?
Yes, and it's it's partly embarrassing, but partly cool. Because you get to see the progress you've made, and it's kind of motivating. But
totally.
Yeah, I watched solo ensemble videos from high school, and it's oh my god. Yeah. What made you move to Coats? So towards my second year of being in Phantom, every corps kind of has a personal connection to you, and it's nothing against Phantom or anything. I just didn't really feel at home. And when I was in Rhythm X, I talked to a lot of guys who told me about their experiences with Bluecoats, and it really had me interested, and so I went to a camp, and it just felt right. Brett Kuhn said something to me. He said, whatever happens, you've got to go with your heart, no matter what other people say or whatever. And so Bluecoats was really where my heart was, and I loved the program from the start, going to camps and looking at the staff. So that was the reason I really made the switch, and I had an awesome experience. But both corps are great. You just got to kind of follow where your heart takes you in the end. So.
I thought you were going to say the snare tech was a jerk.
Well, that was the other thing.
You hated that guy.
The snare tech was limiting my progress. So, yeah.
Always making fun of you and give you a hard time.
Yeah.
If we weren't using my phone to scope right now, this is a good time to embarrass Devon while we're on the Periscope. You don't know what I'm about to say either.
What's that?
I don't think you know what I'm about to tell. The story I'm about to tell.
Oh God.
Okay, so
Michis all day.
Yeah, totally. So I'll preface this with Devon is one of I always cite Devon as being the archetype member, the archetype player. But there was this one instance. Tell me if you remember this. It was either finals week or the week before finals. We've finished rehearsing for the day. It's a show day. People are packing up, loading the truck, grabbing dinner. And I'm coming back from the field. And like I said, if we weren't using my phone, I would show you this photo. But I'm walking back, and then there's this, the main driveway of the school, but then there's a side driveway that leads to the field itself. But it's a road that cars will drive down.
Yeah.
But it's inside the school. And I'm walking by, and I look over this road, and there's just a lone snare drum with a carrier sitting smack in the middle of the road.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, okay, in your head you think, okay, maybe it's this guy, it's probably this guy, or it's one of these three guys, right?
Yeah.
And so I walk over and I'm about to do a thing that's going to teach them a lesson to not leave their drum unattended. And I walk over and I look at, it was either on the drum or on the carriage. I was like, Devon coning? Are you kidding me? Take a photo of it.
I'm starting to remember this now. That was terrible.
Take a photo. And the photo is perfect because it's a road. There's nothing in the road. It's just a lone snare drum sitting by itself, unattended, unwatched. And if it had been anyone else, I probably would have taken it and hidden it from them and had them freak out for 2 hours before giving it back to them. And I remember I showed you the photo, and just like you looking at the photo, you felt embarrassed.
I just got heated. Yeah, I was like,
just looking at the photo made him embarrassed.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna post this. I'm gonna post this online.
Yeah. I remember when the quads would like leave their drums or sticks out, we'd put them in the trees and like see if they notice and stuff. So. always the snares against the quads. So.
There was a question earlier about, does marching DCI help you if you become a music major?
I mean, I'm not a music major, but I would only imagine yes, because there's a lot of things that Drum Corps teaches you that's like on the emotional and psychological side, completely outside of just strictly music. I mean, I'm sure it makes you a better musical player as well, but Drum Corps teaches you to control emotions, deal with super high levels of stress, go long days of practicing without burning out. I mean, there's so many good things that come out of Drum Corps, so I can't imagine that it would be a bad thing. So, yeah.
And maybe the comparison, just to specify, is between marching snare and tenor. Let me add one thing to that. Huei, what were you doing on tour with Devon? Oh, I was the snare tech and co-caption head at Regiment at the time while Devon was marching, and so we worked together then. And then we were talking in our Manhattan Beach hangout. A few years, I guess, 14.
Yeah, it was like 2 years.
A couple years before we
saw each
other. Had a chance to see each other and catch up. But you know, like with good friends, you see each other, and as soon as you see each other, you pick up where you left off. But with marching Drum Corps, and this might happen to people who are music majors or are becoming music majors. There's lots of different schools of thoughts, and when I was a music major, sometimes you encounter other professors who kind of poo-poo Drum Corps.
Yeah.
You know, because, and frankly, Drum Corps has changed a lot over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. And it seems like sometimes people still have that, 1980s, 1990s mentality of what Drum Corps is. Or even people who still think that drum lines play really harsh when they play and that it's not musical.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a rock hard surface that you're playing up. Anything, you have to be extra musical if you're going to play with expression on these instruments.
Yep.
And, maybe like the immediate benefits are you just have chops for days, right? The tempos that you play, and you're just standing behind the instrument for 12 hours a day, you develop this comfort level. That's what it was. I remember, I can't remember who told me this, but someone made a very pointed just observation, which is the comfort level that you develop with an instrument when you're standing behind it for 12 hours a day is something that you can only gain from doing it, right? You've got to go through that grinder process to get that ability. And that was actually part of one of the reasons why I switched to front ensemble my last year when I was marching Drum Corps, because I'd played snare for 3 summers, and I thought, okay, look, I think I know how this goes. I get this.
Yeah.
But what I don't get is standing behind a marimba for 12 hours for 3 months. I should probably go do that because I was a music major at the time, and that's exactly what it was. You learn how to, when you play in the front ensemble, you look in for a lot of your cues because the spacing is so wide. So you learn how to play without looking down at the keyboard, and that directly ties into sight reading music. When you're sight reading music, you're looking at the music and you're not looking down at the keyboard, and that only comes from standing behind the instrument for 3 months every day.
Yep.
How about snare versus tenor, which I think is what the question was specifically asking. Like, if you're a snare player versus if you're a tenor player, and now you're a music major.
Well, I can say that, the tenor drummers typically, they typically have a little bit more musical knowledge than snare drummers because we're looking at one line, and to quads they have a lot more responsibilities to deal with. Snares are still better than quads, but
I was waiting for the snare plug somewhere in there. I was like, wow, he's going very straight ahead on this one.
You gotta follow the glory children. So, but no, I mean quads. I mean, I would say that you would be more prepared to be a music major or become a better music major if you were a quad player, just because you have that multi-line responsibility.
Timpani, multiple percussion setups.
Yeah.
Keyboard chops.
That being said, though, like you'd be surprised with how many things you can do on snare. Like there's so many different like timbres that you can get on the snare drum, and it requires, since it's such a crazy sensitive instrument, you have to be so like musical and just so like finite about how you play the drum. And I think that can translate to anything, whether it's marimba or timpani or whatever. Like I guess the force at which you play the drum, it's so variable on a snare drum. Every little thing has an effect. That's why it's so hard to clean a snare line, like let alone a couple people, 10 people. Like, you know, if one person just sticks out of the sound the slightest bit, it's so obvious, you know.
The sound is so short, right?
Yeah,
your room
absolutely.
for error is this, as opposed to the tenor room for
Yep.
error, which is it's a longer sound, right?
Right, yeah.
No one's making an argument for the bass line. We're not giving enough bass love over here.
Okay, bass line, dude, if your timing is not like flawless or whatever, like you will not be successful in the bass drumming world. Like that's an independence thing. So like, yeah, absolutely, that would help you so much being a bass drummer, because all they do is timing. I mean, they have to be flawless individually, and they have to know their parts so well, because if they don't, I mean, you can't rely on them. So yeah, that's definitely a high pressure situation being in a bass line. So
What's up, Casey? How's it going?
yeah.
Speaking of you know, watching old videos of ourselves. So my
Yeah.
freshman year, you know, you guys, those of you who've watched me scope before, I've talked a little bit about when I was in middle school. I was a super fan for the high school drumline. So the summer of 8th grade, after 8th grade, going into my freshman year, I was all amped up to try to make the snare line, you know, and I've talked about how I knew all the returning members in the snare line. I knew their names. I used to watch from the sidelines and catch their shows, and we would go to the summer practices. I was like, I've got to make the snare line. And the you know, the story is a sad ending, but it's actually a happy ending, which is I didn't make the snare line, but you know, this is maybe a tip for the instructors out there. The instructor let me practice with all the snare drummers, knowing that I was going to be on the bass line as a freshman. But he kept me on snare line as long as possible so that I would have that exposure to being on the snare line, so that when I auditioned the second year, it would just be that much more familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing bass 2, and a lot of the snare parts he would write into bass 1 and bass 2. So having that connection with the snare line also gave me the ability to play their parts and roles. But you know, you're talking about bass lines. The thing that I gained from playing on the bass line was the impeccable timing. Like we'd play 3-note timing, 2-note timing, 1-note timing, triplet timing, duple timing, and the, you know, connecting the dots between your hands and your feet. That was just so critical the first year. Because sometimes when you get on the snare line, it's like the ramming and jamming rudiments. It's about the notes, not so much about the fundamental basics.
And you can, within a snare line, to a certain extent, you can hide a little bit. You know, as you get towards the ends of the snare line, there's parts of passages of music where if you know it well enough, I mean, you could potentially hide and like not be totally independent and confident and not stick out of the sound. Whereas in bass drum, I mean, that just doesn't happen. I mean, every single person, they have to know their music just as well as everyone else. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely an independence thing. So
Bass line equals the breath of God. I thought you weren't an English major, Jacob. That's
pretty deep.
Yeah. It's painting some imagery over here. I'm picturing God going, the bass line, unison. Speaking of hilarious video, there's a video of me as a freshman in the bass line.
Really?
And this is 96, so Cavs had just won in 95 with Planets. And we did a Planets show, and I was playing bass 2. My buddy Nick, who also ended up marching Regiment and Cavs, we marched together. He was playing bass 1.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so there's the two of us, and Nick and I knew each other from 6th grade. I think I've told you that.
Oh,
before,
I didn't
right?
know. I didn't know that.
Oh my
I thought
God.
it was just Cavs.
Dude, I'm gonna tell you my Nick story over dinner later after this. But there's this video of us, and it's like our second or third football game, right? And we think we're so good, we're so amazing, and we haven't grown into our bodies yet, so our feet are bigger than like our bodies, and we're kind of like this, like turtle marching, and it's just us, and my parents had zoomed in on just the two of us. So there's this video of us doing Planets, right? And we keep missing the halts, and we're like crashing into each other, and we're on the wrong foot, and I mean, it's a complete train wreck.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
But it's so fun to watch those videos.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
How are we doing on time over here?
It's like
4:35. Okay, pretty good. All right, let's talk this question for just a moment, and then I'm going to ask Devon for his favorite drum corps stories that are appropriate for the scope. But this first question is actually I wouldn't say a serious question, but it's an actual question that was sent in via Ask Huei. Hueiyanpan.com/Ask Huei. If you have additional questions that we can answer on video for you, you can send them there. You can also Snapchat questions to us as well. Okay, so this question is from JD. He says, "Hey man, so lately I've been hanging out with more and more drummers, and I noticed that some of them have a huge ego battle with themselves. How do you deal with someone with a huge ego, but at the same time be able to work with them? I've come to realize that I'm going to have to work with people that have egos. Is it better to ignore their ego and show them that the real work matters, or just tell them straight up if the situation is serious enough that an ego is not going to work in this setting? I really appreciate it. Have a good day." So, I mean, have you worked in situations where other people in the line had egos?
Yeah, absolutely. Like this is like, in my opinion, one of the biggest like issues that you like run into within a drumline situation. Like everyone, the most important thing is that everyone on the line is, one, they're independent, but also they're aware of the fact that everyone is working towards a common goal, and every person has a counterpart, and everyone has an opinion that should be valued as much as everyone else's. And so the important thing to remember is that ego can start to play a part when we talk about the concept of like junior teching and stuff like that, when other people are basically telling another person in the line, "Oh, hey, you're not doing this right," or "This is going wrong because you're doing this." A lot of times people can get defensive with that, when it's hearing that from another person. But I think the most important thing to remember is that you're all working toward the same goal. Everyone in the line matters as much as everyone else, and that just because you have a different opinion, that doesn't necessarily mean that should be the method that everyone takes. And that's really, that method that you set out, that's really up to your section leader as well as your instructor. So those are the two people that should really be working together to kind of solidify what you guys are going to do, how you're going to approach the drum, how you guys rehearse. That's a huge part. Just stuff like that, how you interact with the rest of the ensemble. So there's so many things that have to be decided before the season even starts, but it's never too late to. And once you get that solidified, then there's no question. No one has really a need to question it or whatever, because that's what you guys defined it as. So that's my kind of take on it.
Yeah. So. And the comment that Jacob just said about the line between having an ego and then constructive criticism, I don't know if you guys caught what Devon said about the junior teching situation, but let us know in the comments. Have you been in a situation where you're in the line and then you stop the rep, and then guys start talking to each other and saying like, "Hey man, you were a little slow on that last rep," or "Hey, that's actually a shot on 2," or the heights are 9 and 3. And the thing that I think young students a lot of times don't realize is that you're trying to help each other. You're saying like, "Oh, well, they're doing this wrong. If I tell them, then it'll help them get better." But if you enter any sort of professional or veteran rehearsal where everyone's a pro and knows what they're doing, when you have too many chefs in the kitchen or too many cooks in the kitchen, the problem is that it actually slows the rehearsal down, right?
Yeah.
Because when you do a rep, there could be 20 things wrong. You got to rely on the instructor in front or the tech out front or the conductor, whoever's running the situation, to say, okay, these are the 20 things that we have to deal with, but we're going to draw everyone's attention to this number one thing. They prioritize what's the most important thing to get fixed. And, you guys have heard me say this too about Brett, which is he's got this golden ability to target the most important thing, and a lot of times if you fix A will take care of B, C, D, E, and F. So you're teching, the and a 4 over here, where if you just brought your sticks out together at the same time and played the first note together, the and a 4 wouldn't even be an issue. So the other thing about ego, I remember, do you guys know who Bob Becker is? How many of you have heard of Bob Becker?
I haven't heard of him.
Bob Becker?
No.
Bob Becker, if you're a percussionist, after this scope or after tonight's lessons, you need to go on YouTube and look up Bob Becker, founding member of Nexus Percussion Group, one of, if not the greatest living xylophone player on the planet at the moment. And he's not just an amazing xylophone player, but he can play snare drum, he can play world percussion. I mean, he can play, yes, exactly, Away Without Leave. Well done, Jacob. Amazing percussionist, like a living legend amongst. I mean, you're gonna watch this guy play xylophone, and your brain's gonna explode.
Quit.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make me want to quit though. People say that. It makes me go, wow, I want to go practice xylophone so that I can do that. You know, I mean, when
after the first 5 minutes of wanting to quit, you got to be like demolished mentally, and then go, okay, I can do that.
No, when you guys watch Devon play snare drum later, make sure that you take the approach of like, wow, I want to play snare drum like that, and don't quit. He's gonna inspire you guys for sure. But I remember the first time I met Bob Becker, and he's this monster percussionist, and he gets on, and he's this guy that I've idolized from his CDs, and, we didn't have YouTube back then, but I'd heard his CDs play, and I was like, man, this guy's so amazing. And then he gave a master class, and you saw him play, and you're just like, whoa. But the thing that the biggest lesson I took from him coming to do the master class was actually the way he treated everybody after the master class. I mean, this is a guy who, very rightly so, could be a total jerk or so full of his ego because he's the best and he already knows he's the best, and he could be too cool to say hello to you or give you the time of the day. And he was actually also one of the nicest guest artists I'd ever seen come do a masterclass. I was like, whoa. So you got a guy who's already at the top of his field, super awesome what he does, and he's also the nicest guy you've ever met. It's like, oh, well, why don't people just do that? And I think a lot of times people just, they let their ego get in the way. Yeah. And I think too, if you've got an ego on the line, I've been on situations too where their ego's on the line, and it completely
brings down everyone else.
Yeah, brings everyone down around you, and it halts all productivity or improvement, growth within the line.
And that's something that your center snare or drumline section leader has to work with. They have to be the example setter, and they need to talk with the instructor if it becomes like an issue that just pops up over and over and over and over again. They need to work and solidify what their vision is, like how are we going to define things, because I'm telling you, it really halts the progress of the group if you have people just kind of constantly fighting other people over who is wrong and who is right. It doesn't really get anything accomplished.
Can you tell everyone a little bit about the Rhythm X example you're giving, about how all the guys in line were veteran players who had been through ego situations?
Yeah, so one amazing thing that I experienced at Rhythm X was everyone was at a very high level and had already had experience multiple years of different indoor groups, different drum corps. So they had been through a lot of experiences that have taught them these kind of lessons that we're talking about. And one thing about the ego is that all of these guys who were on the snare line we were on, they understood that ego will never be beneficial on a snare line. It's one of the worst things for a snare line because you have so many people trying to play the same exact thing with the same approach. So what would happen was if one person was, a little slow on something or wasn't approaching it the same way, it would take 2 seconds to fix. We'd look towards the other person and say, hey, you're doing this wrong, or you're a little slow. And the other person, instead of freaking out like a 5-year-old, they would just go, okay, great. And that's it, and it's done. And then you would just move on from that, and then you would play with that new way, and it would spread through the line, and it would be awesome because you'd fix a problem in like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Whereas if one person on that line was got all defensive and said, oh, what are you doing telling me how to play? If that happens, then you're done. You're just wasting a ton of time. So that was a benefit of having all these super experienced guys on the line, because they understood that. They had gone through other lines where those problems had happened. But in a situation with a high school drum line where you have a lot of newcomers, a lot of beginners to the process, this is something that needs to be set by your center snare or your drum instructor. It needs to be talked about, because if it's not, then you guys have no one to really look to as the example setter, to set that precedent. So yeah.
Are you guys finding this interesting or helpful? I mean, I see a couple people who are tapping over here. Sometimes when the comments get really quiet, I can't tell if it's either people are watching really intensely or they're bored. Oh, it's amazing. Okay, good, JD. Thanks. Okay, and we got some more hearts coming up here. Okay, thanks, guys. Thanks for the feedback. I mean, I think we're both getting. I mean, this is a very natural setting for a very unusual setup. You know, like we're talking into a phone here, and so sometimes the response
connection,
the response that you get from watching someone's facial expression as you're talking to them is not happening. Now, this is really cool insight. Awesome. Okay, so we have a lesson today starting in about 12 minutes, and we're going to take a short break here to grab some water and just take a breather before we get started. Today's lesson is going to be about balance, blend, and touch, which we're going to recap here in just a moment.
All very important stuff.
Yeah, it's like a, you know, we've spent the last couple weeks talking about how to play the drum, some basic techniques, but the thing that I wrote in the handout was that being able to actually play with somebody is the most important part.
Yeah.
You know, you could be the most amazing snare drummer, but if you don't know how to play with other snare drummers, then you're actually a detriment to the snare line, not a resource.
Yep.
So if you guys want to take a moment before we get started, this handout, which is lesson number 7, Balance, Blend, and Touch, is currently posted on the show notes page for lessons. Every Sunday lesson that we do, or that I do, there's a page for it that includes a free PDF download, and then I usually post the video lesson replay on there as well. So you can go to Huei-Yuan.com/Periscope, and then I've got a table of contents for all the Periscope replays. I only replay or post the replays that I think will be valuable, and if people aren't able to attend the lesson, they can go back and watch on that. But the one for lesson number 7, so you type in Huei-Yuan.com/Periscope/lesson7. And then there'll be a page and you can see this handout. You can see the show notes that we've typed in here. Devon's got some notes for the exercise that he's going to be teaching, and we'll be teaching this lesson together. So if you want to take a quick once over this, the exercise that's actually written on here, very simple material, but this lesson is going to be a lot about concepts, things for you to think about, things that I think are like things for us, but I remember very vividly when I first started out being like, I didn't know I was supposed to be thinking about that.
It's too easy. It's too easy not to do.
Yeah.
So, you got to do it.
So we're going to be sharing that for you. For instructors, this will be something for you to teach your line. For section leaders, this is something that you're going to be able to take back to your line to help your line get better. And then if you're just sitting in the room playing by yourself, this is something so that when you take your first drum corps audition, you're going to be one of the players that people can identify and say like, okay, that guy knows how to play with the veteran players. He's going to be a valuable resource. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for jumping in here for the pre-scope hang.
Are you guys able to see the lesson 7? Someone said they could only see 6 on the website. Are you guys?
I see. It's not in the table of contents because I haven't posted the replay yet. So just type in the web address, which should be hueiyuanpan.com/periscope/lesson7. So I guess if you're in the scope, you're getting the information now. It's a super secret page, but I'll post it on the table of contents later. So just add /lesson7, number 7. Okay? All right, guys. Well, thanks for jumping in the hang. We appreciate the hearts. If you haven't had a chance to share this yet, if you wouldn't mind swiping right and just tapping share with your followers, Twitter, and Facebook, then people can catch the replay. And we'll be back on here in about 10 minutes, and get ready for lesson number 7. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in a little bit.
See you later.
Bye.